Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Radio. Today is September 7th. Today's Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Austin Taylor.
Coming to you live from a bedroom in
Audacity.
San Antonio.
Audacity. Coming live from Audacity. I cut you off. Yes, coming live from San Antonio. The hot city. Didn't y'all get a bunch of rain yesterday? I was looking on the...
Yeah, we got a lot of rain yesterday. It was kind of surprising, not unwelcome, of course. It was quite nice. Um, just kind of it knocked power out in a couple of like street lights that I had to drive through last night, and turns out no one in San Antonio knows that you should stop at intersections with street lights when those lights aren't on, right?
Yeah, or slow down when it's raining.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will go really slow, and then other people will be like, just driving
Oh, I'm a
and
fucking turtle.
speeding. Yeah.
Like we had a real big downpour that came out of nowhere for me, like when I went to go see F9, and I was driving home like a turtle. I think it took me like 20 half an hour to get home from a movie theater that's less than 10 minutes away.
I believe it. I've been in those almost monsoon like situations where you just cannot see in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm live from Austin, and we got a little bit of rain that trickled over, but it was cool. It's been 100 degrees here for like 3 days. It is somehow hotter in Austin than San Antonio. Like they will have the weather up, and I'm like
Yeah.
watching it on my TV, and it's like, oh yeah, it's hotter in Austin than San Antonio. I'm like, I don't know why that is, but I looked at my weather app at 6, and I was like, oh, it's getting bombarded by rain. That's strange to see that when it's been really hot and it's just raining for like an hour. Shit. Let's talk about some video games, Austin.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember Destiny 2?
How could I
Whoa.
forget it?
How could you forget it? There's a new season out right now. This is kind of their what I would call preseason before their next update. It is Season of the Lost right now, and it launched with a bunch of new events. And then I think they're going to do some Halloween stuff. But this launched with crossplay. It also has like some armor stuff where you can just go into the visuals of any armor piece you have, and you can change it to anything. I think it's called transmog, is what like WoW
Yeah.
players would call that.
Yeah, that's what like that's been called for a bit. I know they integrated that into Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah, so I don't know if this was this season or last season, but you talk to a weapons lady named Ada, and she will teach you about it, and then she gives you like 6 item cores that you exchange those to pick anything from any armor you've ever had that's been in your collection, because it keeps track of anything you've acquired will just show up in there. So it's like, oh, I like these weird techno goth armor sets from Season of the Arrival last year, so I'm gonna go buy all of these. And I think you might have been playing with me at that point. They're all like leather outfits, very Matrix, very like Dark City looking, except future goth is what I'll call it.
Yeah, Space Goths.
Yep, space goths. Crossplay is in. Thankfully, PvP doesn't like fuck with the crossplay. I haven't felt salty at people shooting me. I've been salty for other reasons in PvP, but we'll get to that later. The Witch Queen is coming out in, I think it was February. Normally these come out in September, but this is February. And so it is about this lady named Savathun. She is Oryx's like sister. She has a connection to a hive god where she likes to deceive people and lies, and she gains power from that. And I think that's how they live forever. When you do those things, it's like connected to you, and it makes you stronger. So there's like a reveal that people have been kind of showing because they're a little farther than me. Because I'm only a couple missions in where, as it turns out, Savathun has been that dude Osiris the whole time. The dude from Mercury. So she's just been cloaked as him lying to you. Which, that's a thing. And so the missions I'm starting at are carryovers from the last season of Splicer, where you're working with the Fallen. There's some Fallen who are in the House of Light, and you're guiding them to the city. So I guided them to the city. And then I'm talking to I think her name is Mara. She's the High Queen of the, like, Awoken. And she's like, oh, some stuff is going bad. And so you have like a portal from the Dreaming City to this other area you can go to. So you have all your hubs are a little more connected. And so I'm getting in there. I'm getting a bunch of drops because I didn't play a lot of Beyond Light. Some of the numbers are going up. And so there is a bunch of stuff leading up to that DLC that's pretty cool. And I will say, like, I think the biggest part that brought me back was just playing this on a Series S that's 60 frames, and it is wild how much different it runs on a newer console. Like, they put some work in. I can't remember if I talked about it last time I played. I might have been just playing on PS4 last time. But it looks good. It's solid.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's still the game with the guns that feel good and a list of proper nouns that are about as indecipherable as the first Dragon Age, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, like, I will look at this and say astral alignment or lower Calyx shield. And I'm like, okay. But eventually there is some taken threats that you're going to be going and doing. Because that is a lot of what the Forsaken expansion had with the Dreaming City, which is where, like, Mara lives, kind of. There in the reef is where those Awoken are. So you're kind of going between those. And then the season pass, I just bought it. It was $10. It gave me an exotic at the beginning. And it opens up. Normally, the free-to-play path for, like, the seasons are you get a couple missions, but you can't play everything that's in the season. And then I think by getting this, I get some extra missions I can go mess with, and you get a bunch of XP boosters that just kind of help you level your battle pass faster. So it's cool. You know, I forget that it's nice just to have a hobby game I can play by myself, and just, like, you're working towards something. Like, all the stuff I've done before is still here with me, and there's still new content coming out, which is, like, this and Genshin might be something. Like, Genshin is something I might do after I, like, go through all the missions, and I'm at the point where I'm repeating stuff is usually when I fall off. So at that point, if that comes, I might go to Genshin. But I'm trying to think the other stuff that was coming out of this.
Isn't this, like,
What's up?
This upcoming season of Destiny, or this upcoming, like, big event for Destiny? Isn't this the conclusion for Destiny 2?
No. Okay, so
Is that what this is being? So where does this fit into, I guess, the greater plans for Destiny, if they've announced that yet?
So they showed off a roadmap. There is this season is the season of the Lost, leading up to the Witch Queen DLC, which is the DLC that is coming out in February. And then there is one more DLC after the Witch Queen. And then there's a second DLC after the Witch Queen, which is the bookmark on the 10 years of Destiny being out. So I think Witch Queen is year 8. The next DLC is year 9, which I think they have named. I had a picture with all of these on there. It's called Lightfall. And then the final chapter is called Final Shape. And so that is the Light and Darkness saga. That is, like, the 10 years of that. And then Bungie has that Tencent thing they're doing. So I think at some point there's going to be they're kind of splinter and have a part of Bungie that is doing more like drip feed updates for Destiny beyond year 10, kind of keeping it there, still seeing if it's like worth to do more DLCs, which they have a big player base, it probably will be. And then they have their new IP that they're going to come out with. So it's going to wrap up in a big way in the final shape and then slow down a little bit is what I'm guessing is going to happen. But, that's 2 years from now. We'll see what actually ends up happening. But yeah, some cool stuff going on. When the Witch Queen dropped, the season dropped is when the reveal trailer for the Witch Queen dropped. We got the season drop and the crossplay as well. So Destiny has been kind of in the talk again. Like I go on Twitch where I used to see it at like 1K people, like 1,000 people watching it, like between Beyond Light and now, like at the low point, and now there's like 10K people watching, which is a pretty high number. It's not the Apex or Fortnite highs of like 100,000, but it's a lot more than most of the other service games I see. And then they have a 30th anniversary pack for Destiny coming in December. And there's like you buy that pack, I think it's $20, and it's another chunk of content that's separate from this season and from not Beyond Light, from the Witch Queen. And you get a free Gjallarhorn or it returns in the 30th anniversary pack. It might be at the end of a battle pass or the beginning. Who knows? But you're going to get Gjallarhorn throughout that pack. And then they have...
And Gjallarhorn is a weapon?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Gjallarhorn is the exotic rocket launcher that has like an eagle on it that was very famed and powerful in Destiny 1.
Okay.
It's like a cluster rocket. It'll hit something, blow up, and a bunch of little rockets will like surround something. It was like one of the strongest weapons that people were trying to get from the first game.
Yeah, I remember that being like one of their first big sort of drama episodes with that game.
Yeah, for how strong it was, and it was like people were mad about it in PvP because once you get heavy ammo, you can just aim it at someone and shoot, and they blow up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the big weapon right now is. People want the raid. Vault of Glass is back, so people were trying to get all those Vault of Glass weapons again. It's like the Vex Mytho class which is a fusion rifle machine gun that fires really fast and has really good damage for an exotic like that. Like it does more damage than a regular auto rifle, and it looks really... Yeah. It's like a Vex looking fucking auto rifle.
Yeah, so like sleek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, and they want to do more stasis guns, which is like the new subclass, the ice one. So they want to bring up more stasis guns in the new DLC, for the Witch Queen DLC, as well as they had a much more customizable DLC for stasis, or setup for stasis powers when they came into Beyond. And they're going to do that with the older powers in Witch Queen, which is nice because there is only... For each subclass, you only have 3 choices, and you can't change them at all. You can't put any modifiers on anything. But when they did the stasis stuff, there were so many modifiers and ways to change it and mix and match grenade types and like customizable traits for like... Oh, are you doing this kind of super or this kind of super with it? What are your grenade choices? You have some buffs that are like, oh, if I kill an enemy, I get health back, or am I doing a shoulder charge with a Titan, or am I just punching them? So that's cool. Bunch of stuff. I remember Beyond Light came out, and I didn't want to play it a lot because what ended up happening was like... I was just playing these missions, and I was dying because I was under light level, and I was playing it by myself, and I was like, I don't want to do this right now. I have a lot going on with the work. Because there is a point of commitment you have to have with these games, and if you're not feeling it, and I wasn't feeling it, I just will go play a single-player game instead.
Yeah, that's fair. I've definitely hit those points when I've attempted to play like get into Destiny.
Yeah, and Destiny's it's we have tried it. We tried to do the free. We did we did it twice kind of. We did it when it was free the first time, right? Where they had all the old content.
Yep.
And then we did it again when they removed that old content and just said, "Hey, here's a little campaign on Earth." And it was kind of confusing. I don't remember what happened, but I think we got stuck on a mission and just like, "Oh, we'll, let's go play Apex or something."
Yeah. But I'm glad Destiny 2 seems to be doing some very cool stuff. I love this for you.
Yeah, and a lot of the community are saying that after the Activision split that happened about 2 years ago, that Destiny, or I think it was a year and a half ago, it was around not last September, but the September before that, is that this is in a better place. They're getting closer to the WoW, World of Warcraft MMO model than what it was around when Destiny 2 launched and Forsaken, where it felt like there wasn't as much customization and there was stuff there would be like such dry periods between DLCs, and they are getting to a point where once every 3 months something's going to happen and you kind of always have something to do more. So it seems like they're getting in grooves with making something closer to like a bigger MMO, which is hard with a first person shooter because the levels are so much different than an MMO level, but it's cool. I will say I think the best time to play Destiny and to have the most fun has always been when the expansions come out, because all the free-to-play stuff is so just there, and I don't think Austin, you play a lot of video games, and I think it is very boring compared to other stuff you've played, and it's very I don't think it's worked on that well. Like, I think it might have been an afterthought compared to other stuff.
Yeah.
Was
Well, I
that
don't.
Earth area?
Yeah, I don't want to say like afterthought because I feel like a lot of because with most games, a lot of hard work really goes into this kind of thing. It's just there is like a general lack of, for me, direction in what I'm actually supposed to do in those areas, specifically the revamped Cosmodrome Earth area that you get in the free to play version of Destiny 2 as it existed when they released that. Um, so like trying to get into that was really hard because I just didn't know why I would be doing the things I was going to do, because if the objective of a game like Destiny is to accumulate points by getting very cool guns, I'm already limited in how far I can go because of this pricing structure. And that's not like, I don't think that's a particularly, I don't think they could have necessarily designed around that, right? It's, you want people to buy this game. And the free to play version is to get people interested in the game and then perhaps buy it so that way they can also get the expansions and such. Because like it's kind of an odd way to monetize that game. Like it needs people to be buying those big expansions in order for this kind of effort to be profitable, because it's very big, it's very expensive. Like those very pretty skyboxes and environments probably take up a lot of time and money to create, and you need people to buy these like heavier expansions and get into this game in
Yeah,
such a
like
way where they are profitable.
the $40 DLCs and the $10 season passes are what like keep the lights on and then keep making this game. I would wish they would have made like there's that first DLC Forsaken. If they would like make that free, that campaign is really good, because it's like I think the other thing is like, why would I play this loot treadmill that's free that doesn't really have a great story when we could go replay the Halo campaigns, which are like such good experiences and also have tight shooting and really good co-op and really good like we were playing Halo Reach PvP for a while, and like that was like, yeah, I don't need to get the god rolls on these weapons to be good at this multiplayer. I can just jump in and go play it because I know how to play Halo.
Yeah.
So I jump back into PvP and it sucks. It's all god tier exotic weapons or all this stuff that are really good at killing people, and if you don't have those, It's extremely hard to compete, and I've been like figuring out what weapons to re-pick up because my moment to get back into this is you remember that there's a grenade launcher called the Wither Horde I talked about one time. It is a exotic that you shoot the ground and it makes a taken circle and it has an AoE damage. You can have 3 of them up at a time. There's a catalyst for that to where instead of having to reload it, you can store it and switch to a primary and do some shooting and then switch back and it'll be reloaded instead of hand reloading it, which is a thing I really like. But to get that, I need 300 of these things for a quest. And to get one of those, I have to complete a strike playlist or do a Crucible match. I'll get 2 if I win a Crucible match, and I'll get 2 if I win like a Gambit match. Those had seasonal buffs last year that I fell off. Those seasonal buffs went away. So now I have to do like 75 Crucible matches to get this little thing that I can stow, this little extra perk for my exotic. And I'm definitely going to do it, and it's going to take me, I figured it out, it takes me a week and a half if I do about 15 Crucible matches a day. So let's see how that goes, Austin.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then I have to get grenade launcher kills in PvP too, but that's been fine. That's my next 2 weeks. Join us next week where I'm like, hey guys, I did it. I have dark round spots under my eyes and I haven't been sleeping and I'm jittery. It's great. All this coffee is flowing through me. It's great. That's all. That's my Destiny.
Incredible.
That's my 20 minutes of Destiny, Austin. All right.
Well, good luck with that.
Hey, you played a game. You played some Metal Gear Solid. We talked about this a little off air, but it was like you got it on GOG because it came out to PC like a couple months ago last year, I think.
Yeah, like kind of late last year. GOG announces that we have the first 2 Metal Gear Solid games on our platform, and reviews at the time illustrate a port that isn't particularly well done. So I hold off on it, and a couple of weeks ago they announced that they've updated the controller support features on their ports of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. And, they had their summer sale. It was pretty recently, so I just decided to pick up Metal Gear Solid for like $7 because I'd never actually played this entry in the Metal Gear series.
Yeah, this one is the first PS1 game, and it's like it's a sequel to Metal Gear 1 and 2, which were the NES and Super Nintendo. But this is the one that like, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and V. Yeah,
a truly iconic video game.
Yeah, really cinematic at the time. I think I played it first in 2006. There's like a trilogy pack for PS2 that was 1, 2, and 3, so that's how I got into them.
Yeah, I remember a friend of mine picked that up. We had just finished our last day in the 5th grade, and we picked up that trilogy at GameStop because we both really liked Snake's character in Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
That hadn't even happened yet for me when I was like, I think we're only like 4 years apart, 3 years apart, but yeah, I forgot about that. That was the Wii U one, right?
No, that was just the Wii.
Oh, was he in the? Okay, so that's like 2008, 2009. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think Super Smash Bros. Skipped the Wii U.
It did not.
It did it not? Okay. No. I just don't remember.
It's just Ultimate is basically that version. The Ultimate that came out on Switch is basically that.
Okay, I see. All right.
Dogs are barking. I'll talk about Metal Gear for a bit. Metal Gear Solid.
This is...
What's up?
So the setup of this game is you are Solid Snake, elite special ops soldier. You are sent in to rescue 2 important hostages on Shadow Moses Island, a nuclear disposal facility off the coast of Alaska.
Are you talking about a Sylvester Stallone movie right now?
No. This is the setup for Steven Seagal, like early Kurt Russell career film. And you sort of do this. it becomes very apparent like what Kojima thinks is very cool about like this series and like the things he wants to sort of show off because you start with this very complicated explanation of this uh, scuba maneuver that your character is doing in like a pod, right? That is shot out of a submarine like a torpedo, where then once that sort of pod can runs out of fuel, you bust out of it and then you use like a scuba equipment to stealthily infiltrate the basement of Shadow Moses Island. And they're doing, they're giving you like military acronyms like, on-site procurement of weapons and such, um, and that kind of thing. And it's just like, yeah, this is Hideo Kojima. Just he thinks these terms are cool, but it is kind of interesting because like the game will spend, and also has like a character whose entire job is to give you like lavishly detailed history of firearms and weapons in your on your phone. But also this is a game about the disastrous nature of the current military, like nuclear uh, sort of mission, right? Like the idea that nukes as any kind of deterrent are effective or are sustainable is kind of the big thing about this game because the people that you're rescuing are the CEO of a arms company and the chief of DARPA, who both
DARPA chief.
who both tell you that Shadow Moses is not actually a ground for
Oh
disposing of military
no.
waste. It is the test site for a new mobile platform that can launch a nuclear weapon at any point in the world,
Yep.
codenamed Metal Gear Rex.
And it's a robot. And
And
it's
it's
a
a big
mecha.
mech.
It's a big mecha. It kind of looks like a T-Rex too. You know,
Yeah,
they gave it the good name, Metal Gear Rex.
yeah.
Um,
It's a cool name, and it's just like it's very interesting just like watching this game go from kind of not intelligent, I will say, like, but very deliberate critique, and then shuffle into its very, we'll say, very anime sensibilities. Like for instance, the part I left off on, because I haven't finished yet, but the part I left off on is you communicate with another soldier who is on the base, a woman named Meryl, and she calls you up after you have fought this cybernetic ninja character who has a mysterious past.
oh my
And
god.
while you're on the call with her, she is discovered, and she has to, break the connection and immediately run. The sound of some gunfire is heard, and you and your new pal Otacon discuss how you can find her, and that is by remembering how she walks. Because when you first met
Yeah.
her
How is
earlier
she
in the
different than
game,
the other people,
yeah,
Austin?
she's the only woman.
And how do you tell if she's a woman, Austin? I know the answer
The
to this.
swaying of her hips as she walks.
Yeah, you have to find the polygon model that has a. I don't remember if the butt's bigger or if it's just the walk is a little different. But yeah, I remember that being like, when I'm 15, I'm like, that's a good joke. And
Yeah,
at this point in my life, I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll roll my
yeah.
eyes. It's anime shit.
Like, yeah. No, the thing is my first actual exposure to this narrative device is in the like, like if you remember the really old Ego Raptor videos. Um,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I don't know the actual like I forget the name of the video itself, but like he did like a Metal Gear Solid parody,
Metal
and
Gear Awesome.
there you go, thank you. And he does mention that bit in that video, and I didn't know what that was in context to, and now that I know, I'm increasingly like, yeah, yeah, it only got worse from here, but it was not good to begin with. Like it
Yeah,
just
that that stuff shows up more and more. Like,
oh, it gets worse
speaking of like the
as those games
beauties in like
go.
Metal Gear Solid 4 is like
Yeah,
the farthest that goes to, in my opinion.
yeah, like like I mean, once you get into like Metal Gear Solid 2, you get the character Fortune, who is a like female sniper in like a leather onesie. You get Metal Gear Solid 3, you have, Eva, pretty aggressively Eva, who like anytime you talk with her while she's in her biker suit, you have the option to press R1 and go into Snake's point of view, and he'll like be staring at her chest. Metal Gear Solid 4,
Yep.
you have the beauties, whose like second phase of each of their boss fights turn into this very creepy thing, and then Metal Gear Solid 5, you have Quiet.
Yeah, the quiet is the culmination of all of this, and it's probably
Yeah,
the
the
worst of it.
the sniper with a yeah, and like and I'll say like there's some things about Quiet like when there's care put into that character, I'm like, okay, I like this. Like, I think this is fine. But then that care is completely and utterly subverted by like the scenes where if your bond with her is at its peak and you return to Mother Base smelling nasty, she'll take you and she'll shower with you. You know, that kind of thing. It's anytime these games like do anything that make you think they're going to do anything interesting with their women, they just don't.
See, I'm gonna go on Google. MGSV mod. Quiet has closed because that's what I put her in military
Yeah,
fatigues. Let's go. Yep,
yeah, because
someone made that because
you unlock an outfit to do that pretty late in the game. But the thing is now we're switching over like Metal Gear Solid 5 talk. It basically doubles her deployment cost, right? Because you have to figure out, you have to sort of balance how much it costs to deploy resources, like weapons and such, with you on missions. If you choose to put Quiet in the fatigue she gets later in the game, it doubles the cost of bringing her along with you.
oh, I just mean like a PC mod. I'm like I would
Yeah,
rather. It's like we
I mean,
talk. It's like
that's why
yeah,
you
I
would
would
mod
rather
it.
put these characters. It's like that's like why I fell off in like Near Automata at some point, which is a different game because you can like get parts because the main character's in a skirt and you can at some points her the skirt runs up a certain way when you're running and stuff. I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't care about this. I'll just go
Yeah,
play something else. It just kind of weirded me out to a point. I was just like, I don't. I'm just trying to play an action game.
yeah,
I understand.
yeah, yeah. Sure, that's fair. I think there's like enough within like Automata's narrative, especially as it relates to like 9S, to sort of justify it. But like there is definitely always kind of this it's a this term I don't think anyone likes to use anymore because it's kind of antiquated, but like a male gazy aspect to it that is is always present in these kinds of things, and especially like when you look at the re-release of something like the first Nier, and in that new chapter that they add into that re-release of Nier Replicant, you can do a trophy that is there's a trophy for looking up a kinase skirt like 10 times. It's not great, and it's annoying. But going back to Metal Gear Solid,
Yeah. Quick sidebar, and then we'll go back to Metal Gear Solid. I was about to say the same thing. It's like we talk about. It kind of comes up a lot more with Japanese properties and media, where like we were talking about Neon Genesis, and they have their weird stuff with females in a different way, and then this has it, and there's a couple others. There's a lot of anime stuff that is so much different than like the way American media portrays stuff. I mean, American media portrays like
I mean,
sexualizes high school stuff in a different way.
like let's not, yeah,
I'm not
like
going to get into that rabbit hole, but I will say to sum up this thing, it's like I really want to enjoy these really good defining media, and I'm going to know that that shit's in there and just be like, yeah, this stuff sucks, and I'm always going to know it sucks, but I'm going to
yeah,
still
yeah,
enjoy the rest of it because there's so much cool shit in Metal Gear that I like way more than that stuff that I think has changed so much of gaming and made it cinematic and all these other things that we'll get into when we're talking more about this. But yeah,
yeah.
that stuff sucks in anime
I mean,
and
to be
other
fair, it's like
media.
Western media is equally horny. Like it is not
Yeah.
horniness is not unique to Japanese animation. It's like horniness in different ways. Like you get things like Duke Nukem Forever, and then you get other things like the infamous uh butt shots in Mass Effect 2. Like horniness is everywhere. It's just kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
it when this industry is like dominated by men. Um, these kind of things will just happen when you don't kind of put that thought into this kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um,
Tight Overwatch skins.
sure. Yeah, the sort of the traumatic like women of like Blizzard games, like that's the but yeah, like Metal Gear Solid is it's like it's an interesting game. It's probably like I mean I will say compared to my experience with 2 and 3, I will say for this game's like idiosyncrasies, it's more enjoyable in a very real way because I'm not fumbling with as many like control inputs as I was with 2 and 3, because I don't think when playing 2 or 3 I ever figured out how to choke someone out. In this
Oh
game,
yeah.
it's kind of weird because the thing is like you have to be running up to someone as they're like standing or walking, and then you have to let go of the directional buttons and immediately press the action button to start choking them out. Um, and if you're moving at all, you're just going to do a flip, right? You're just going to flip them over, and they're going to get up and they're going to raise the alarm. Uh, and the problem there also is that even like there's sometimes where even when you grab someone to put them in a chokehold, like they'll still raise the alarm as you're like choking them out. It's just like, okay, I gotta do this real quick and then run because this game sends a almost unstoppable horde of dudes after you if you trip the alarm.
Yeah, like that alarm goes off and you're
Yeah,
either resetting or hiding somewhere in a box until they leave.
yeah, it's like it's just very sensitive because they didn't have like the I'm guessing either like the tech or the insight to do this, but like like later games when actual enemies they need to radio in to set off the alarm, which ranges from what you see in like 3 to eventually like something that develops into what you see in like Peace Walker and 5. In this game, as soon as an enemy is alerted, the alarm goes off, and it's just very frustrating to contend with, especially
Yeah.
because if you are just going to try and run to like a door or a different area of Shadow Moses in the facility you're in, you're just going to have to use a lot of resources to get there because a lot of dudes are going to show up and start trying to shoot you.
Yeah, and I think when I played these originally, when that stuff came up, this is like me being 15 and being like, I wasn't as good as games. I still played a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I ended up having like a YouTube video opened up of how to beat the game pretty much. So I would
Yeah,
figure out where the next exit was and then find the best way to get to that exit or what the puzzle was. Most of the bosses I had it off because those were fun enough. But yeah, I just wanted to get the story of 1 and 2 and play them without watching like a YouTube movie of them. Because I played 3 first originally.
yeah,
And so, yeah, that was a good time because that has a really cool camo system and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, the controls have definitely gotten much more complex. Like the focus on what they like 3 refers to as like CQC, and you can like kind of get into really good fist fights with people in 3, 4, and 5, where you're grabbing them, choking them out, or in 5 you'll like throw someone and then you'll connect to someone else and then throw them after. So you have like more options for like stealthily playing or not going loud is another way I'll call
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Like Peace Walker, because everything in the game is actually really small because it's on like a PSP title originally. The way that CQC develops in that is you can just chain takedowns with dudes very quickly, so that you can never alert anyone, and you can just go through so many interior environments in that later game, just punching dudes out like you're some kind of you're like a D&D monk kind of deal. And it's very
Yeah.
funny. Whereas in this game, it's kind of just choking people out because unlike
Yeah.
the other games, enemies don't stay in environments when you've rendered them unconscious. They just immediately fade away because there's no stamina or health system, right? That the second game brings in, right? Where it's either you kill or you don't, and then the game starts tracking whether or not you kill people or you don't.
Yeah, and like I will say, just a quick Peace Walker moment is playing that with 2 other people and everybody chaining together those throws is really like we had 5 people running on us at once and I grabbed one person and threw them and then my other friends were throwing them the other dudes at my dudes and we were all just there's just a bunch of dudes flying around while we're trying to run through these levels because the levels are broken up into like 10-minute chunks, so you beat a level and you go on to the next one,
Yeah.
and so we're just trying to see how many kills we can get per level and if we can perfect them and like all that kind of stuff, find all the collectibles. Yeah, Peace Walker is cool time. Yeah, because and then to back to 1, it is a very static thing where you are behind someone, you grab them, you choke them out, and then they're on the ground, and then you keep going. Instead of like taking your silenced pistol and aiming it and shooting it, because you can go like first person with the silenced pistol and look down the sights and hits. Or is that just 2?
That's just two. It's just two and
Oh,
three.
oh, this
One
one
does not
has.
have that.
That's right. This is the one where I would shoot 3 times to make sure someone was dead. I don't remember how
Yep,
many shots exactly you need with the silenced pistol, but
it's
that was
about three.
my go-to. Yeah, I would get behind someone, I'd shoot them 3 times really fast, and I'd move on to the next person usually, or I'd choke them out.
Yeah, yeah, and like, and so yeah, like interacting with that because you don't have to aim as carefully in this game as you do in two. So you can just run through rooms very quickly, turn where you know someone's walking because your mini radar is showing you a field of vision coming your way, and just immediately blast someone off screen. Um, it's probably the most like elite soldier you feel in this game, considering how awkward the movement is generally.
Yeah, and there's no this is the game that you if you crouch and try to move, you will go into prone. Does this game have prone or does it just have crouch?
It is prone, so like
Okay.
if you press A to, I'm using controller Xbox controller, so if you press A to crouch and then you move while you're crouched, he goes prone.
Yeah, because I remember the evolution of getting to the point where you can crouch walk. Like I think 4 and 5 had crouch walking, which was like
Yeah,
moi, good stuff. Um,
yeah,
and 1 and 2 were these. This game has. I compare this to like the Resident Evil 1 game where you have. This is not a third person camera. You're swinging around the person. You have a setup camera, a setup point that you're looking at the character from, and then when you get to a new point in the level, it'll kind of move somewhere else. I think it's called second person when it does that.
yeah, yeah. It's not like the fixed camera angle of Resident Evil. It is just isometric, like looking down at you, and it follows you. Like you are always on the center of that screen.
Yeah, and I love the PS1 era for like games like Resident Evil and Metal Gear coming out, and they are these are like you have to conserve stuff in them, and I think that's they split at some point. Like obviously, like I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is way more. Even I will say 3 is more of an action game, and then 4 is all blown out action. Like you can go guns blazing in that game, and then you have like Resident Evil 4 going full action, and but they always Resident Evil always comes back to like you being a little bit more defenseless. I will say, and I think Metal Gear like 5 has never come back from like trying to get to you being defenseless. You've always been like had so many tools at your disposal to be able to deal with like any situation.
Yeah, because like the context of like Peace Walker and Five is so very different from any of the other games. Because the other one through four are about you, a lone infiltrator, going into an area and with no like real resources and you know winning despite all that. Whereas in Peace Walker and Five, you are literally the manager of a PMC.
Yeah, and setting wise, I mean, but I would love like I think Ground Zeroes does it a little because you have this base. It's not a long game; it's only like a couple hours, but it's close enough to one in a way. It's a much smaller thing, but they Metal Gear has never had a Resident Evil 7 or 8 where like they are not as much a actiony. Like 8 is I hear it's very much a action game, but I think that's a little more pulled back compared to like when Resident Evil 4 became like what I would call an action game.
Mm,
But I haven't played
mm.
a lot of 8. I just
I've
know some
seen
stuff.
playthrough of eight. It does it. It's probably I'd
Okay.
say more
So
actiony than like four.
maybe more like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes then. Because
Yeah,
those
I,
are definitely you run conserving ammo and running around and dodging
well,
zombies,
if you
which is
want to
kind of what you do in Metal Gear 1 is I dodge people or you have a chafe grenade when you get alerted and you throw it and you try and you get the fuck out of there.
yeah, if you really want to worry about managing resources in Metal Gear again, I know this game called Metal Gear Survive.
No, I'm good. Or European Extreme on Metal Gear like 3. Like those hard modes are really fucking cool to talk about like the different difficulty modes that Metal Gear Solid games have. I thought was always cool. I never mess with them, but in European Extreme on Metal Gear 3, if you get one alert, it game overs you and you have to start from the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, I remember a Super Bunny Hop sort of playthrough of that. It was too stressful. I couldn't make it through it, but it seemed interesting.
Yeah, and I remember like 3 plays a lot with like when you start the game you have a bunch of options. Like it'll ask you, "Hey, what's your favorite Metal Gear game?" And if you pick 3, you'll start it with a Raiden mask because like Metal Gear 2 has the or you pick my favorite Metal Gear game is Metal Gear 2 and then it gives you the Raiden mask because all like 3/4 of 2 or 2/3 of 2, like a majority of that game you are playing as Raiden. It switches like all the promotional stuff is you playing as Snake, and then they're like, oh, hey, Raiden's also a new character. He's going to be the new Snake. This will be really cool, right? He's a blonde hair young dude with long hair, and he's a pretty boy. He's the new main character, guys. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, 2 does a lot more with Raiden than that. Like Raiden's whole character in 2 is sort of a takedown of the idea that that Solid Snake is like a particularly desirable character to be.
Yeah. Well, no, I just mean like there's like that fan backlash that happened where it's like we just want to play as Snake. We don't want to be Raiden.
Yeah,
And then they turn Raiden into a Cyber Ninja in 4, and sure, let's go.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that is directly like no one got what we were doing with that character. No one cared for the critique we were putting forward, so we're just going to turn him into a cyber ninja.
But hey, without that, Revengeance wouldn't have happened, and Revengeance is fucking a wild Metal Gear game. So it works out in a weird way, in my opinion. I think the Metal Gear 1 has some really good boss. I love the music in Metal Gear 1. I'll talk about that first. It's does such a good job of like the like go when you go from like regular walking around to being alerted, the musical change and it's faster and the tempo like picks up and stuff. And there's so many iconic like Metal Gear songs that will come up. Like you have a radio in Metal Gear 4 and you can play a bunch of those Metal Gear 1 tracks and all that kind of stuff. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go find this. I think it's like Metal Gear Solid Nuclear something. Nuclear Warhead Storage song. Yep, there you go.
yeah, like that's I think it's like a really nice thing that gets integrated into like Peace Walker and 5 too. Is just having that radio with you at all times, so you can just listen to whatever you want while you're doing missions that can sometimes be relatively boring. Um, yeah, and like everyone's track here is pretty good. Like the Psycho Mantis track that pops up every time he shows up is interesting. I think the track that pops up for like the Cyborg Ninja is yeah, okay. Like this is what this character's like background music should be.
Yeah, and they're all really good. I think it does well with like the PS1 being able to put out this kind of music, which was so different from like N64 or Super Nintendo or like Sega stuff because it's on a disc, it's on a laser disc, it's on a CD, and it can mess with the synth stuff and it sounds really crisp and it has all these 80s homages in the music where I'm listening to Warhead Storage and I'm like, oh yeah, there's some John Carpenter's The Thing going on in here a little bit too. I feel this a little bit. So these Metal Gear Solids are definitely a love letter to like the 80s action stuff, and it continues that with like Metal Gear Solid. I think 3's soundtrack is, it has all the 60s spy stuff going on and the Snake Eater song.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, like once you get into like there's always like that one like vocal track that's like kind of off in these Metal Gear games, right? Like this first one has I forget the name of it. It's nice though. I think it's like this Celtic tune. I forget the name of it, but the second game has Goodbye to Yesterday, I think, and then the third game has Snake Eater. The fourth game does like a lot of retreads of those tracks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because 4 is like, this is trying to do stuff. It's trying to make you think about 1, 2, and 3 in different ways and be this nostalgic culmination of the series in a way.
Yeah, because at the time that was what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and works out. It's cool.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
I forgot how Metal Gear 2 plays with their music because it does like it's a lot more like digital in the ways they change, because there's some tracks, like the opening track kind of sounds like it's almost from one. And I'm also thinking about Kojima Studios doing like Zone of the Enders at almost around the same time of Metal Gear Solid 2. Those are wild games too. That is you playing as a very fast mecha robot and murdering smaller mechas. Very Gundam. You feel like a Gundam. That is the closest game to feeling like a Gundam, because I'm zipping around destroying other like armor characters. Anyway, yeah. How's your Metal Gear's cool. You think you're gonna beat it? Are you gonna play 2
Yeah,
and 3?
I'm gonna finish it. Well, I've already played those. I've played every Metal Gear game except this one. I don't think I'm gonna really mess with 2 again. I might think about it, but it's gonna depend on how I feel at the end of this game. I don't think I'm gonna like if I do decide to hit 2 again, it's not gonna be like soon. It's not gonna be like immediately afterwards. Like I don't want to sit here with this game like before Metal Gear becomes this really overcomplicated thing. Like you meet Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear 1, who's like the antagonist of this whole series. And he's just a dude who likes revolvers, you know? And then you get to 2, and then he's like being sort of sort of possessed by the arm of Liquid Snake, you know?
Liquid.
It's it's real rough. It isn't great. Like the way that Metal Gear Solid 2 like then overcomplicates Metal Gear in new ways that are just kind of out of left field, and then the series has to commit to that in ways that I think kind of bring it down, especially once you get to the answer of who are the Patriots. Um,
The Patriots.
yeah, I'm not super into it. Like
Yeah,
as a full playthrough
I
again.
I think those other after 3, I think I have gone back and played those games for the action set pieces more than the story. At least 4. Like I playthroughs of 4 I have done on my PS3, which because it's not you cannot play Metal Gear Solid 4 on anything else besides a PS3, which is kind of a bummer, except for an emulator, of course. But it's not on current gen consoles. Is me skipping those really long cutscenes and just playing around in their like sandbox, because like the shooting is really good, and you have like your stealth suit, which is like will mimic the environment. Like if you sit there, and you'll get camo based on whatever's around you. So if I'm on the ground, I'll get a camo suit that looks like the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think this is gonna be start of like a Metal Gear Solid series playthrough.
Well,
This is
didn't
just
you beat a bunch?
satisfying
Didn't you
curiosity.
do a bunch of Resident Evil games in a row, like not too long
Well, I
ago?
mean, yeah, but the thing with like those games is they're always fun in some way. It's kind of like always weird, and also I don't have to necessarily pay attention to the way that like I will just by reflex pay attention in a Metal Gear game because that's who I am, you know. And also I will say like the gameplay loop of like fighting zombies is more enjoyable to me than like trying to struggle through the gameplay loop of 2 and 3 again, and then hitting Peace Walker and 5 and being like, ah, yes, here we go, the games I enjoy actually playing.
Oh yes.
Um,
Yeah, I think two is a hard. 2 still keeps it still plays a lot like 1. I think 3 subsistence, at least for me, is the easiest one to go back to, but it's still the same as 2, except you can swing the camera into third person instead of it being a static camera. But yeah, I feel that. And dude, Resident Evil has remade them. You have 0, 1, and 2, or you have 0, 2, and 3 remakes that are really good, and you have that one, or that
well, it's
Resident Evil 1 remake remaster thing.
well, yeah, it's a
It's a
remaster
remaster.
of
Yeah,
like
not a remake.
0 and 1 have those remasters.
Would you say Resident Evil 2 on PS4 is that a reboot, or is that just a full-on remake? Because
Well, I mean,
it's so muddled in games sometimes.
well, it is like well, it's a remake, right? Like it's a full remake of that game structurally. A reboot, I'd say, is pretty dependent on like what its implications are for the series, like
Yeah,
narratively,
story. Yeah.
more so than anything. And the implications of like those two games, like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, aren't going to really matter until we see what they want to do with the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
Whenever they decide to show that off, it's like we don't know what their actual plans for this series are post these remakes and post this
Mhm.
whatever they're doing with 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, and I think w- um the remaster of 1 is so easy to get, and it looks so much prettier than, like, because they've done work to it compared to, like, when you just have Metal Gear Solid 1 on PC, which still kind of looks the same. But, it's nice to get, hey, I can play the older version of 1 and it still looks the same. And I think they're talking about remaking 1. Don't know if that's still a project that that Konami is doing, because Kojima split off from them. But it's how accessible you can get to the Resident Evil series compared to Metal Gear,
Yeah, like
which,
it's just the
yeah.
other big problem is like even if I wanted to replay the series of Metal Gear, I would have to, I'd play one here. I might buy two on GOG, but if I wanted to play three and Peace Walker, if I'm lucky, my 360 is still working, so my 360 is still working, and maybe so is the Xbox Live 360 Marketplace. So if I'm lucky, I can buy the HD collection there, and I think I already own Peace Walker on my Xbox. But four is not something I can ever play again, and then I will maybe be able to sit down. And I have five on my PS4.
Yeah. Hey, what if you played Metal Gear Solid 3 on your 3DS?
Um, that legitimately was a thing I considered doing at one point. Like
Yeah.
when the 2DS came out, I was legitimately thinking, what if you buy this cheaper DS, and then you buy Metal Gear Solid 3 on the 3DS port of that game, just so you have it.
Yeah. I own that one. I don't think I've played too much of it. Um yeah, I think the Xboxes are the easiest way to get through to that set of Metal Gear stuff, which, you know, if yeah, loading up a 360 to play them, that's
Yeah,
cuz those
like
just came out on the original Xbox, and then they released them
no,
as a pack
no, they didn't.
later.
They didn't. Metal Gear
I can't remember
Solid
how.
did not come out on the original Xbox. Those were PlayStation games until
Oh,
the
I
360.
mean, I mean 2 and 3.
Yeah, no, those didn't come out on the 360. I mean, on the original Xbox.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's the 360 pack of, 2, 3, and Peace Walker.
Yeah, the first
Hmm.
Metal Gear game to hit the 360 to an Xbox platform was Revengeance.
No, I'm on Amazon. There's an original Xbox copy of Metal Gear 2. Don't know if 3 got it, because I remember seeing that in at GameStop, but that's just my
I'm seeing just 360 copies.
yeah. Metal Gear Solid 2 Subsistence Xbox, and I found the box art for it and send you a link if you want. But anyway,
No,
yeah,
I'm seeing it. That's weird.
yeah,
I
I
don't
remember it
remember that
coming
being
out.
advertised in any way.
I think that's where those 360 versions came from. I don't know. I don't think 3 ever came to Xbox. I think it was just 2. Yeah, I think 3 was just PlayStation 2.
Man, video games are fucking weird.
Yeah, video games are weird. Konami sometimes will just put out um, a game on stuff sometimes. Let's see. I'm on Wikipedia. Yeah. So Metal Gear Solid 3, only PS2, PS3, 360, and they came to Vita at some point. They had that HD pack on Vita.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, it is very weird. I'm gonna go. I'm on the Metal Gear fan. I'm gonna try to find Metal Gear 2. And then they have that GameCube version of Metal Gear Solid 1 as well.
Yeah, the Twin Snakes,
Yeah, which is also,
which
yeah, they
is one
yeah.
remade in Metal Gear Solid 2's engine with all those gameplay enhancements. So with like first person aiming, and also a load of new cutscenes and like sort of directional choices. Like I think in that Twin Snakes, there's a bit where Snake like jumps over a missile or something, or like Snake or
Yeah.
Gray Fox does something on a missile.
All right. We are at the hour mark, so I am gonna say.
I think
I
that's enough
know.
Metal Gear.
That's enough Metal Gear.
Until I finish Metal Gear Solid.
I'm going to run through Psychonauts 2 really fast, and then we'll talk about some Void Bastards. But yeah, we've just been talking about Destiny 2 and Metal Gear Solid for an hour. Good times. Good way to spend your Tuesday. Okay, Psychonauts 2. I haven't played too much of it because I've been working a lot.
Yeah.
But I realized the setup of this game is there is the Psychic 6, who is like a council of psychics who are like the founders of the Psychonauts, and they kind of are all fucked up in this way. So you start going into each one of their brains to help them, because they broke up and they don't really talk to each other.
So it's like, so a band broke up.
Yeah, basically, and that is the level I just played. Austin, is you're bringing the band back together. You find this brain in this. There's a giant jar in the Psychonauts headquarters that is filled with brains of people who passed away because they store them for scientific use. Like if you become a Psychonaut, you're signing a contract saying that they can keep your brain. But I found a brain because I was trying to put it into this guy named Nick's head because he's missing one, and I needed it to get past a certain point in the story. So I go into this brain. I find out he's a member of the Psychic 6, but he's lost all his vision. He's lost like his sense of smell, his sense of touch, his sense of taste, and all of those. His sense of vision. And you are in this black area, and he looks like what a lot of stories will do a soul for. It's just a white ball that you're talking to, and you're helping him find that stuff. So once you trigger something, you go into you put the brain in the body, and then it changes from this vast white place to a 60s aesthetic, like very colorful, very stylized. Let's see if I can find the level, because it is all tie-dye and colors and rainbows. I'm going to send you this link so you can see what I'm talking about. But you go into this guy's brain, and you are trying to help him bring the band back together, because you are at a rock stage, and people are booing you in this crowd, and you are talking to him and this other dude who's a giant eyeball, who is basically Ford Cruller, this other dude who is a main part of Psychonauts 1 and 2, who is kind of this guy whose brain has been split apart because of this psychic battle that has caused him to have split personalities, which you help him to bring that back together. But when you do this level, you find out the band is the Psychic 6 that you're bringing together, and the guy, the voice sounds so familiar when he's talking to you in soul form, but he's so dry and monotone. When you start giving him his senses back, it's fucking Jack Black. And I'm like, what? It fucking blew my mind, because I hadn't heard anything about it. And I know the Brutal Legend came before it and has a lot of the music stuff. And when I got to that, I'm like, I love this level. It was really cool. You pick up a violin at one point, and you do the Brutal Legend pose, which is him with the guitar over his head and stuff, which is fun. So it was a really cool level, and you play a song at the end, and at one point there's like an overworld where you're in a bus and you're traveling around. It's a very small area, but it's playing with the bands in a bus, traveling to different sets. So it was cool. I had a good time in there. It's very trippy. I will say, I was listening to another podcast talking about Psychonauts 2, and I realized that even though this game looks really good, but it doesn't have like the, if I'm thinking about next generation, like character models, like Ratchet and Clank has the best character models. This is pretty close to it, and that type of texture packs and like the way they're making all the wraps for all these models, but the lighting is so good on the Series S and in general that I think that that part of next gen has really pushed and makes this game really beautiful and feel really lived in, where there's the shading on people's faces and the dark parts and the light parts and all the natural light sources and all these environments that I think really makes this a next gen game, even though there's not as much budget put in. Because, I think Ratchet and Clank has had a giant budget because Insomniac and Sony and stuff, and this was been worked on for a while with Fig and crowdfunded, and then Microsoft helped them. They picked them up, and they were at the end of this game putting it together. But yeah, it's still beautiful. All the environments are crazy detailed, and their use of colors and space, and these almost Inception style areas where nothing in real life looks like this, and it's dope as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like this game is stylized in a way that games just aren't anymore. Like that games like in that like are in this sort of conversation are in the discourse the most often. Like even games like Ratchet and Clank, like the stylization of Ratchet and Clank is like we want you to see every piece of hair on this. What animal is he? Alumbix? Is that what
Yeah,
that is?
Lombax. Yeah,
Yeah, like we want you to see every individual hair on this thing. Like even being on like a next gen console, like that's not doesn't seem like the priority of the Psychonauts 2. And
yeah.
instead it's these very like hyper stylized things, and like the way that these new consoles are like helping them or letting them push out like color, right, is what's very interesting. Like color and lighting and also
That
just
too. Yep.
seamlessness in levels is I think what I find fascinating, and I think like what Psychonauts one, I mean not one, but two is sort of a really good display for.
Yeah, and it does that stuff so well. And I have been playing this at a slower pace because I want to like think about the levels a little more, or just kind of like have a slow burn on it, which is something I'm glad I'm doing because I ended up like I basically was Ubering the last couple of days to make some extra money. So I was like, I would come home and just play Halo 5 multiplayer and do a little bit of that because I'm prepping for like Halo Infinite and just kind of like, Halo 5 plays well
Yeah.
and it still plays like Halo. And so yeah, Psychonauts 2, I'm probably going to go back, play a level or two, come back in a week and do it again. But let's talk about other. I think Void Bastards has a really good art style. If we're going to transition to another game that I played this originally. I think it came out on Game Pass at launch as well as like PC and might have come to PlayStation. But this game's cool. What's up with
Yeah.
how are you
Yeah, so
liking
this
it?
was this was something I picked up free on Epic, and I remember the first time I'd heard about this was it's like I think it was one of the first covers of Wireframe magazine, which was a like pretty relatively new UK games publication that I subscribed to because when it first came out, they're like, hey, you can get our first run of 12 issues for basically like one third of the full price of.
Nice. Is this a
Uh,
physical magazine?
yeah, it's a physical magazine. I've got
What's it
I think
called real fast? I just got it.
Wireframe.
Wireframe.
It
Okay.
is,
Hey, Humble Bundle published this game
yeah,
as well.
and the thing I'll say about I mean, the thing about Wireframe is it is UK based, so trying to get physical magazines in this is hard. It's not hard, but it just takes a long time and it costs a
Did
bit
they
more.
uh did they do digital copies? Because I know
Yeah,
Game
yeah.
Informer had like digital copies that were pretty
Everything
good.
everything that's like in the Wireframe magazine is actually like, free on their digital platform. It's like it's all very easy to access, and that's like why I think Wireframe's like really good stuff. Magazines just are just good packaging, you know. And so
Yeah, I like cracking open a magazine on the toilet. Not gonna lie.
yeah, so Void Bastards is this sort of roguelite game where you play as a prisoner who's rehydrated, right? Like the sort of the idea here is that in the future in space, what they do is like they dehydrate prisoners and basically put them in suspended animation that way. And what you're doing is a series of jobs to reduce your sentence, and you're going on and you're collecting like specific items. So like I think what I'm looking for right now is a 3D printer essentially for the AI spaceship that sort of controls my prison. You know, And it's like, yeah, its art style is very cool. It's this very like comic book aesthetic in the way it's, its cutscenes are directed, and uh, how the environment looks. The sense of humor is very, I want to say, and it's probably just gonna sound like a thing I'm gonna say because don't necessarily have a bigger frame of reference for like British comedy, but it does kind of feel like Monty Python-esque humor in that way, uh, where it's all like very dry. It's like the ridiculousness of their statements is just kind of baked in with the seriousness that everyone's taking, like the news that you're constantly sort of fed in stride. And yeah, it's like even it's relatively funny, and I would say like pretty fun because the structure of this is you're going onto these randomly generated ships to collect resources like food, ammo, and fuel for your ship as you trek across the map to get to where you need to go. And at any point, your character dies, they just rehydrate another prisoner, but you don't lose a whole lot aside from any like positive traits that are like sort of grafted onto the prisoner you are. And like the way it plays with these traits is generally speaking pretty fun. Like there is one character I got who was tall, right? And so what the tall tag does is you cannot crawl through vents because you're too big. So I can only move around by opening doors, and that increases the likelihood that I'll be seen by enemies as I'm trying to get into a room. So that basically means that character, I have to try to build that character in such a way where they are ready to fight at all times.
And yeah, this game's really cool. I think the development director from Bioshock also worked on it. This is what my ad is saying. Yeah, it's a cool game. It's an Australian studio, and I love the art style. Like it does. Like aren't most of the enemies like these 2D things that are walking at you?
Yeah, like
I'm trying
everything's
to remember.
it's this kind of I don't know if they are two
Comic
dimensional.
booky,
Yeah,
comic
like they're
booky.
very comic booky. I think they are 3D, but like they're always like presented in such a way where like I could see these being like 2D.
Yeah, I remember when this came out, it blew up in a way. Like I remember people on Twitch were playing it for a while, and most of the podcasts I listened to really were digging it. This came out last year, 2019.
Yeah,
And yeah, this I love the art style, and I love how like this plays with the like whatchamacallit rogue light stuff, to where yeah you're dying and they're just rehydrating people and you're picking up new perks on your new runs. And all these FPS like roguelites are some of my favorite ones to play. Like I played a lot of, there's one called Heavy Bullets on PC. That was a
yeah.
pretty good one of those. I think that was like my first um that was my first person roguelite, and I only played it on PC. So that was like probably one of my first PC games I ever played because I am not good with mouse and keyboard. But yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, and like I haven't gotten too far, so I haven't really been able to mess around with like how like wild the things you can make are, but it's teasing some really interesting things with like the like instead of a machine gun, what you make is a staple gun, right? And you're just firing staples like at a very high velocity. And they do good damage, but like the enemies get really weird at certain points, and there's always like a risk that the ship that you're on, if you arrive there like at the same time as like pirates are coming, that while you're sort of scavenging for resources, um, a new enemy type will like come in, and it's bad.
Yeah, this game it's pretty difficult at times. I will say, gotta love Epic for just still putting free games out. You know, maybe you'll buy a game on there at some point.
I mean,
Maybe that's the goal of them putting out free stuff, is
yeah,
to get you on the launcher. But it's, as someone who just has a PC, and I'll just go grab some stuff sometimes from Epic, and it's dope.
yeah, it's like it's really nifty. It is like this desperation move of like we have Fortnite, we can burn money. I will say I think like with the Apple Epic lawsuit, we got that sort of buyer data. And from what sort of people who study it were able to tell is that a lot of people aren't playing games on Epic outside of claiming these free games. Uh,
That sounds like when Mixer paid Ninja. and Shroud a bunch of money to come play on Mixer, and then Mixer shut down after that.
Yeah.
Is that people will come for the big stuff, but it's hard for them to stick around. Maybe, if they do this for like 5 years, people will get nostalgic for it's not nostalgic for Epic, but it's so much in a part of it that it's like, oh yes, I do pick up things from Epic, to where it stops being a new thing and it just starts being routine, to where maybe you do buy stuff from Epic.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't know. We'll see if that pays off. You have to be. It's like when we were talking about the Steam Deck. Is that Steam has to be invested in the Steam Deck and have a plan years after for it to work out. Is you have to stay committed to it.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Like, I mean, Epic is also like they're funding games, right? Like, that's kind of the whole thing. Like they are working pretty hard. Like they just announced a news line that we're at, like, is that Epic is helping Remedy with the Alan Wake remaster or remake.
Yeah, they're doing 2 games. It's the Alan Wake remaster, and there's another one they're helping funding. So yeah, they're really cool. Epic's a great. Fortnite might have some stolen ideas or whatever, but games pick up other games' ideas. Sometimes it's not. It's a bad thing, but companies do that. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
Capitalism.
the thing with Epic is like they're making very conscious choices to not like collaborate with, like, they've even said, like, the Among Us team have even said like they would have loved to have like helped Epic like integrate their imposter mode into that game. Like, Epic is just making very conscious choices that have like undermined the efforts of like the PUBG and Among Us, and then not even getting into the stolen dance moves of Fortnite. It's
Yeah. Well, they want to be the last game standing, and they don't want to give anyone else credit for it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's that kind of thing. And I mean, I'm not going to come out with like any sort of like moral stance against the Epic Game Store. Like, it's like I don't think that really exists. Like, it's just like Epic.
Yeah.
Epic is like they're a company trying to get your money. It's a tactic to get your money, and it's like fairly effective. Like, I mean, seemingly not that actually that effective, but it could be someday. And they're playing the long game.
Yeah, and I think that them doing that, they're trying to get people's goodwill, but I think by doing it, they are, whether or not the underlying stuff is different. But yeah, they're helping people publish games, and they're getting people's games out there, and they're helping people have their stuff funded and have jobs, and then they're putting out free games that they're paying developers for to get on their platform. And then they're letting people who don't buy a lot of games I don't buy a lot of games on PC, but I've got a bunch of games I can play on Epic Game Store. So, yeah, there's that.
There's utility to it. Like, I'm not, like, no one's saying there's not a utility to it. It's just like we probably shouldn't attribute like any sort of altruistic, like, we should like be like, oh, like it's so good of them. Like, it's a strategy.
No, yeah, it's all business if we're talking about it. But they are business moves that are
useful.
Helping out smaller.
It's like
it is helping out smaller
utility.
Studios. It's bringing themselves up while helping a bunch of smaller studios get up there as well.
And like the Epic, like Apple lawsuit is like, if it goes Epic's way, like in the final ruling, like that is good for a lot of people outside of Epic.
Yeah, and then Epic will become Apple after they dethrone Apple, because that's how, if you think about, there's no kingdoms anymore. There's only giant mega businesses that dethrone the other one.
Yeah, it's just neo-feudalism, baby. Also, good game, Neo-feud. But yeah, there's just going to come a day where, Tim Sweeney's going to walk into Tim Cook's office, and he's going to just put one bullet in the chamber. He's just going to, you're going to take it all.
All right, we're in an hour 20 minutes. We did our bit.
That is deranged.
Void Bastard. Yeah, that is deranged.
Deranged bit to end on.
Yeah, it's fine. Void Bastards is really cool, and I'll say, hey, if Destiny 2 is the type of MMO first-person shooter you're into, go keep playing it. And Metal Gear Solid is weird. We talked about that. And Psychonauts 2 is Psychonauts 2, and it's on Game Pass. Hey, there you go. We got some news to talk about.
Promise not to talk about Metal Gear Solid until I finish it. Just so we don't do that again next week.
Well, we talked through everything. I hope to God it's not another 30 minutes of us talking about it, but I think we got through. We've never really talked about Metal Gear Solid in depth, so we kind of did this today in a way. There's still so much more to cover, but I'm not going to even get it. Like there's that fucking I at one point read a timeline of the plot synopsis of all of Metal Gear Solid for like an hour or two, and it broke my brain. And I'm not gonna talk about that because, at the end of the day, that's just whatever. Don't worry about it. Thanks for joining us. Hey, thanks for joining me, Austin.
Yeah. Always good to be on and sort of discover the origins of the Les Enfants Terribles.
Yep, and Liquid Snake is now my arm, and this has all been a ruse, and I'm trying to overthrow podcasts 10 people at a time. Let's go. Till next week.